Okay, in our previous video, we were updating our post title, but currently there's no validation on that post title, so we could pass anything into it. Now, as I mentioned, the validation is exactly the same as what we've done on our store method. So we could just copy this down into our update method, but copying code is bad. Every time you copy code, you've then got to maintain it in every place that you've copied it. So instead, I'm going to introduce you to a feature of Laravel we've not looked at yet called form request validation. So let's jump over to our command line. And I'm just going to clear this screen so it's easier to read. And let's create a new request. So we can say PHP artisan make request. And we're going to call this post request. Okay, let's jump back over to our code. And I'm just going to copy this validation rule here because we're going to use it in that request. But over in our project, under app, HTTP, requests, we can see our new post request file there. Let's open this. And you can see here, this is all the boilerplate that the PHP artisan command has created for us. And then in here, there's a rules method. And this just returns the rules that we want to validate. So let's paste that in. So just like in our controller, this will validate on the title that it's required and it's got a min and max length. So back over in our controller, we can now use this. So instead of the request here, what we can say is use the post request instead. And because we're using this post request, Laravel will automatically check for these rules. If these rules aren't matched, it will redirect back to the previous page with our errors. So back over in our controller, we can now get rid of this code. And just remember, if you're not using an IDE, this class may have not been pulled in. So just check at the top of your file that you're bringing in that post request. And that is use app HTTP requests post request. So just make sure that you've got that in if your code editor hasn't pulled it in automatically. So now that actually makes our store method much shorter and much easier to read. But we can also now reuse this in our update method. So in our update, instead of request here, let's bring in the post request. So again now, when the update method is triggered, it's also going to validate using the same rules. And all them rules are in the post request. So if you wanted to modify this, it'll change everywhere that you use that post request, which for us currently is just in our store and our update method. And before we look at this, let's just jump over to our post request again. And this is currently set to false, so the user is not authorized to make this request. But because, like I mentioned, we don't have any kind of login system in this introduction application, what we need to do is just change this to true. And now that means that any user is automatically authorized to use this post request. So let's jump over to our browser and let's give this a try to make sure that our rules are being applied correctly. So we're just going to go into edit this post and let's send it in blank this time. So this is required. That's one of our rules. So this should fail. So let's click update post. And you can see there it's come back saying this title field is required. Let's just drop this down to 4 characters because our minimum is 5. Let's update. And you can see there the title must be at least 5 characters. And then let's just click update again, keeping the same title. And you can see now that has gone through perfectly fine. So we're able to reuse those validation rules wherever we want now because we have that post request. So every time we want to add more validation or maybe even add another column to the database, we only need to apply them rules in that one place in the post request. And everywhere we use that in the application, we'll follow those validation rules. So if you're enjoying this introduction series, don't forget to like and subscribe. And also don't forget to check out my website, penguindigital.co.uk, if you want the files for this course, or you want to check out some of my other courses. I have video and written courses, and there's courses there for all different levels, from beginner to intermediate and advanced. So make sure you check that out.